Hello, friends. Today we're going to talk a little bit more about sadhana and exactly what sadhana is and how sadhana has a relationship with the way that you're living your life and how that relationship with the way that you're living your life then affects everything that you experience around you. I'm going to open up with a quote that I saw recently from a friend. This is by Sarah Dunham Wilson, who is a spiritual leader up in New York. And she said, "The way you alchemize a soulless world into a sacred world is by treating everyone as if they are sacred until the sacred in them remembers." And I feel strongly that there's a lot of truth in those words, that something that is sacred because the resonance and the energy inside of us perceives it in such a way. I can give you a glass of water from the tap, and maybe that would be considered unsacred based on your understanding of all the factors and influences that go into providing that water, or it might be incredibly sacred if you understand it in a different way, if you perceive it in a different way, And so a lot of what we consider sacred or not in our life has to do with how we are actually living our own life and perceiving things as part of that experience. And, one of the saints that I've referenced before, and that is a key part of my life, is Neem Karoli Baba. And you hear many of these saints or beings that have done amazing things beyond our normal comprehension. Oftentimes, they are the ones that can bend what we would consider rules or act in certain ways that we might consider more challenging based on how we were raised or taught, simply because everything to them is sacred. So, in that context, like the caste system at that time when Ninkaroli Baba was alive, and you hear the same thing about stories of Jesus and other people around there being rules, that certain people were the untouchables for whatever reason. And, oftentimes these most sacred beings would find all of life sacred, and they could be in that sacred space and that sacred vibration with all of life, with all people. So when we start to think about sadhana it means the way of attainment. And it doesn't mean the way of attainment in the way that we consider it in the West around attaining something, like we're going to acquire things. It's an attainment through clarity and simplicity and surrender. So the attainment is counter to what we've been raised to believe in terms of acquiring wealth and acquiring teachings and learnings. We're going to amass this collection of things that is important or valuable. And then once we get these things, we're going to fortify our identity. We're going to make our life more secure. We're going to make sure the things we have gained cannot be taken away. They cannot be refuted. The personality that we've developed must be defended. All of that is fortification. All of that is safety based, which is also in relation to fear based. So all these things you're acquiring could be taken away. Your reputation could be damaged or tarnished or diminished. So once you get these things, some of them physical, some of them ideological, well, then a lot of energy and time has to be put into preserving those things that you have attained or acquired. And sadhana is quite different. So the way of attainment is really about getting to truth through simplicity, seeing that all of these things that are lessons can be reduced and can be surrendered and can be let go of to simply see what life is like in that more pure state. Pure in the sense of simplicity, pure in the sense of getting away from dogma and getting away from the constant need to just become something more than you already are, right? Not knowing that you are already the most sacred, the most spiritual being in the essence of your existence. And the fact that you exist is more than enough to find the entirety of the world in a sacred way. Again, if you can get to that level of purity, simplicity, and truth. So with sadhana, it is taking your quote unquote ordinary life and it's working within that structure and it's creating spaciousness and capacity, like I've said other times. So a lot of this initially it's sacrifice, but it's sacrifice in the sense of what are you willing to, or maybe unwilling to initially, but what are you going to give in exchange for truth and simplicity and purity and clarity in your life? What are you going to give as an energetic exchange so that it's not just spiritual materialism and you're not under the guise of a new catchphrase in spirituality, actually just adding more to your pile, just adding more complexity to something that's already quite confusing and quite hectic and quite scattered, splintered, multi-directional distractions going on. So whenever you're going to go into sadhana, an important thing is creating this container. And the container is your life. Your container is your home. It is the people and responsibilities and commitments that you have that are perfect for your spiritual journey in this lifetime. It is the pleasures and pains of the energies you get to experience through the money that flows through your life. It is the stories of all the preferences that you've told yourself, help or hurt you in terms of things that you must have and cannot live without, and then things that you must stay away from at all costs, or they would damage or hurt you. All of that is your container. And we're not trying to pretend anything. And actually, it's quite the opposite. It is truly seeing how things are in your life and going into the relationship of observing, like really looking at all these parts, not pushing anything away and not grasping for anything, but at first just getting into the miracle of observation. So not just caught up in your drama and caught up in the confines of what you believe are the dimensions of your life, meaning that you think it must only work this one way, that you cannot go to this place, you cannot do this thing. Just observing and looking at that and going through your stories and beliefs to understand your journey of how you've gotten here so far. And much of what it is then creating opportunities for you to see the sacredness that already exists all the time. So you're not making something sacred. You are seeing sacredness in life and people and opportunities and challenges that's always existed there. Your individual ability to make it sacred or not would be very egoic in the sense that this cup of water is not sacred, but now I've made it so it is now sacred. It's not. It's actually always been sacred, and it's only a matter of your consciousness and the way in which you approach something that allows you to walk into the energy of the sacredness that it always carries. That's true for relationships, in terms of being with someone intimately and really understanding who they are and connecting with them emotionally, and that being sacred versus acquiring someone, right? To build up your story or your looks, as you know, developing your life and a story in a certain way. So there's sacredness for people, there's sacredness for plants, there's sacredness for the most common, ordinary, everyday objects and occurrences. And so sadhana allows you to slow down. Sadhana allows you to decide that for the benefit of the clarity and the simplicity and the purity, what is the right action to sacrifice in your life? And that means giving up, certain types of engagements, interactions that are not aligned to create an environment in which you can see things clearly. And everyone's different. There's no method per se, and that everyone must do and let go of certain things to create that capacity and spaciousness. Everyone's different in terms of what it would be, and also what is the most important thing, what is the most opportune thing for this person at this time in their life to let go of, or to shift, or to pause, to then just see as some of these elements that felt necessary at certain levels, if they were not part of your life for this period of time, for this 40 days, how does that affect all these elements that we've been discussing? And then within the container, the series of experiences that you are filling that time with, those things that you have given up, are different for every person, but involve singing, moving your body, getting back out into nature, art, food, the sacredness of food, really looking at the relationship with food and the intentionality behind it. Looking at relationships with family and with friends, and how time is spent in a sacred way with other human beings. So those are just examples of some of the things, and to weave them into your life in a accessible and attainable way. Not needing you to give up everything and go into the Himalayas, into a cave. And if your incarnation calls you to that, and that's what you can do, and that's what you should do, beautiful. But certainly not necessary to find sacredness in every moment and everything. Of course, breath work's important. Of course, meditation's important. And those are sort of the underpinnings of a sadhana practice. But the most important thing is that as you're in your container, within your life, within your home, within your relationships, within your job, the practices that you're doing and the things that you sacrifice are allowing you to step forward in a certain way, that everything that was already there can be related to in a sacred way. So we're not going to put on the magic glasses per se. We are simply going to allow you to wear shoes that are more truthful. And the way that you walk and the way that you see things is not so much caught up in the story, and it's not caught up in the fortification, and it's not caught up in the need for safety or the need for admiration, or the list goes on and on. And instead, it allows you to walk forward comfortably in the present moment, and to just see things as they actually are in a truly cleanly, miraculous way, and to receive situations, interactions, and challenges as teachers, as gifts that are for you in your life. And to do all of that from a place of felt authenticity. So not trying to create a story, not trying to get caught up in imaginary things that we see things in a different way so that we can feel like we're doing something important. No, it needs to be a somatically honored authenticity, which means that as you start to experience life in this way, the filter through which you're looking at it is not theatrical. You're not going through the day and going through life with the story of how you think you're perceiving it. It is just more sacred. It is just more spacious as a direct experience, an authentic direct experience. And so that somatically, that authenticity feels comfortable. It feels like there is no tension. It feels like there is no separation or division. There is not so much energy spent on pretense of anticipating what will happen next with someone and thinking about what they're thinking about you or how they're perceiving you, and therefore you need to perceive them in a certain way so they perceive you in a certain way. All that stuff, all that energy which people spend so much time on and so draining, at worst can be diminished and at best can be eliminated. So you're just there with other beings that are coming into your field, and it's exciting and it's fun because it's all part of your experience, and you don't know in advance what's going to be brought into your field for the day. And instead of that being a fearful place of fortification that you work against, it's, again, like I've said in other words, it's I don't know, it's exciting. Like anything could happen, and why wouldn't it be beautiful lessons and wonderful people and insanely amazing opportunities? Why wouldn't it be that? So the sadhana itself allows you to tap into the truth of the sacredness of all parts of life. And it's not something that you learn. It's not something that you become. Again, it's a reduction. It's a reduction of cloudiness and a reduction of muddiness, and it is an embracing of truthful clarity. So as you think about the fall and the winter, this is a natural time, a natural cycle. It has been for all of creation, based on how it's designed. After the fall equinox, which happened just a few weeks ago, this is the time of the year where things are meant by design everywhere, all of life, to slow down and to rest and to hibernate. And the purpose of that, especially for humans, is contemplation and reflection. Looking not just to January 1st, which is still right in the peak of your hibernation period, but really looking toward the movement and the return of life as we move into the spring. Really honoring a period of months and this fallow time to enjoy, to savor all the harvest of the year, all the things that have come to be and all the things that did not come to be. And sitting with those and just being with them and allowing yourself to continue to rest, to germinate for the following cycle, the following journey around the sun. That's what we're doing. So sadhana can be a beautiful way to have that time of quiet and reflection and contemplation and rest. It's a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful time for that as we let go of the light and we embrace the calm and the gray and the dark and the rest, knowing that we will rejuvenate ourselves for the return of the light, just around the corner. But getting out and away from not just these sort of false starts around January 1st, but certainly not following a lot of the commercial impulse around, the push now to run to Thanksgiving, which is already going to push you to Christmas, which is already going to push you to New Year's. And it seems like on, January 2nd, then you'll have Easter eggs shoved down your throat, right? That's part of the letting go. And that's part of the surrender. And part of the sacrifice is Like those are all stories, and looking at those pieces of your life and how they're influencing you, how they're affecting your own mental health, and how they're allowing you to see everything as sacred or not sacred in your life. To take that time of deep December and January and to really use those to get to the quiet, to get to like true connection. What are all the things that are unnecessary for your hibernation? And what are you being pressured to do and participate in, and why? And what would happen as an experiment, just as an experiment, if you let those go? What would the quality and the content and the consistency of your experience of life be? Those are the things as experiments you can look at in your life, and you can find out. You can find out what that increased capacity and spaciousness and freedom not look like so much as what does it feel like? What is your direct experience of life like, for better and for worse? Again, looking at everything equally, like what is that experience like when you can release yourself from some of those pressures? So this time of year is a beautiful time for sadhana. And regardless of, like your structures and commitments and the other things that influencing you, this can be a really beautiful way to get back in contact with the sacredness of your life, so that you can view sacredness not just of your life, but all of life. So if you have any questions about sadhana, again, they're all different. I love to talk to people about the process and how it works, and to hear about your life, where you're at in your journey, and what winter in this period of hibernation could and should be for you. Like what can that be for you, and what would that do to affect your life? That's some of my favorite things to do, is just to guide through that whole conversation, that process, to see if the sadhana period makes sense for you. So I'll leave you with that thought, and, grateful as always for your continued support in this journey and everything that's happening with the forest. And my hope is, regardless of how and where, that you're able to get to some place of contemplation and silence, and just the essence of unconditional love as this quiet time of year comes back into our life. Thank you.